Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something huge, maybe one of the biggest questions there is. What does it actually mean to be alive? All right, let's just jump right in. How can you tell if something is alive? I mean, it seems super simple, right? A dog runs, it's alive. A rock sits there, it's not. But what about a plant? It's not exactly running a marathon, so how do we really know? You know, our first instinct is to look for big movements, running, breathing, that kind of thing. But the real action, the true sign of life, it's completely invisible. It's this constant, frantic dance of molecules. It's nonstop repair work happening inside every single cell, every second of the day. That relentless molecular hustle, that's what separates the living from the non-living. And that right there brings us to the fundamental problem of being alive. Just think about it for a second. Living things are these amazingly organized, complex structures. But the universe as a whole, it's always, and I mean always, pushing towards chaos and disorder. It wants to break things down. So every living thing is in a constant battle against the entire universe. No big deal, right? So what's the solution? Well, to stay alive, you have to constantly repair yourself. You have to actively fight back against that natural breakdown. It means life isn't just a state of being, it's a full-time job. It's this relentless, active process of just holding yourself together. Okay, so how on earth does life pull off this constant fight? Well, it takes a ton of energy, and that brings us to the first essential process. You gotta fuel the system. You can't run a 24/7 repair crew on an empty tank, right? So when it comes to getting that fuel, life basically has two game plans. On one team, you've got the autotrophs. These are the self-feeders, the ultimate DIYers. Think plants just soaking up sunlight and making their own food. Then on the other team, you've got the heterotrophs. That's us. We have to get our energy by eating other things. But here's the thing. Getting the fuel is just step one. An organism might have some glucose, but that's like having a barrel of crude oil. You can't just pour that into your car. It's not usable yet. So the big question is, how do you refine that raw fuel into the high-grade energy that your cells can actually use? The answer is a process you've definitely heard of, respiration. And as you can see here, it's not just one thing. Breaking down that glucose is a whole series of chemical steps, kind of like a tiny assembly line. And it all hinges on a key ingredient, oxygen. If you've got oxygen, boom, you get a massive energy payout. If you don't, you still get some energy, but it's a much, much smaller return on your investment. So what's the whole point of this complex process? It's to capture all that energy and store it in one amazing little molecule, ATP. You should absolutely think of ATP as the universal, rechargeable battery for life. It's the power source for literally everything a cell does, from making a muscle move to firing a thought. And the sheer scale of this is just mind-blowing. Your body actually makes and recycles its own body weight in ATP every single day. Okay, so we've got our fuel and we've converted it into these handy little ATP batteries. Awesome. But now we have a new problem, a logistics problem. How do you get all that fuel and all that energy delivered to trillions of individual cells, especially if you're a big, complicated creature like us? Let's try a little thought experiment. For something like a human, if we had to rely on simple diffusion, which is just molecules slowly and randomly bouncing around, how long do you think it would take for one oxygen molecule to travel from your lungs all the way down to your toes? Any guesses? Get this, the answer is an estimated 3 years. Yeah, obviously that's not going to cut it. Simple diffusion works just fine if you're a tiny single-celled organism where everything is close by. But for anything bigger, you absolutely need a specialized high-speed delivery service. For us humans, that delivery service is our incredible circulatory system. I mean, it's the ultimate logistics network. You've got the heart, this powerful central pump. You've got the arteries and veins, a massive highway system. And you've got blood as the transport vehicle. But the real MVP here might just be hemoglobin. It's this special molecule in red blood cells that's like a magnet for oxygen. It grabs it, holds on tight, and makes sure it gets dropped off exactly where it needs to be, right on schedule. And don't think plants are just sitting around. They have their own amazing internal plumbing. They've actually got two separate pipeline systems. There's the xylem, which is basically a one-way elevator for water, pulling it up from the roots. And then there's the phloem, which is more like a two-way food delivery service, moving sugars from the leaves to everywhere else. And check this out. That food delivery is an active process. It's so important that the plant actually spends energy to do it, using the very same ATP batteries we were just talking about. Right. So you're making energy, you're using energy, things are happening. But all this activity, well, it's not a clean process. It creates byproducts, it creates waste. And this stuff isn't just junk, it can be seriously toxic if it builds up. So that leads us to the next essential job for any living thing, waste management. In humans, our solution is the excretory system, which is basically a super advanced water purification plant. And the stars of this whole operation are definitely the kidneys. These things are working 24/7, constantly filtering our blood, pulling out nasty stuff like urea and mixing it with water to make urine so we can safely get it out of our bodies. Now, plants don't have anything quite like kidneys, but they've come up with some seriously clever workarounds. They can lock waste away inside their cells, or, my personal favorite, they can just dump all their garbage into their leaves and then drop the leaves. Problem solved. They can also ooze it out as resin or just push it out into the soil around them. So, let's recap. We've talked about getting fuel, turning it into energy, delivering it all over the place, and then cleaning up the mess. But here is the most important takeaway of all. These are not separate jobs. They are all interconnected, playing together like a single, perfectly tuned orchestra. I mean, really think about it. You can't have one without the others. Nutrition brings in the fuel that respiration needs to burn. The transportation system delivers that fuel and then carts away the waste that the excretion system has to get rid of. It is a completely interconnected, non-stop cycle. The output of one process is the input for the next. It all has to work together perfectly. And what this all really tells us is that life isn't a thing you are, it's a thing you do. It's not a static state. It's this dynamic, constant, awe-inspiring process of actively fighting against disorder, every single second of your existence. So, in the end, life is this constant, energy-hungry struggle just to maintain order in a universe that wants chaos. And that leaves us with one final, kind of mind-bending thought to chew on. What if the true opposite of life isn't death, but disorder? That's our explainer for today. Thanks for joining us.